what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that our engineers are bought into the idea of that marketing and salesmanship can help them. They think that marketing and salesmanship is kind of beneath them. It's not serious. It's fluff. But that's like having a superpower. They've got superpower in what they can build and what they can create. But imagine having that superpower, but being too proud to tell anyone about it, right? That's where the marketing guys can come in. We can take what they're doing and tell the world.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. There we go. It is a buongiorno, buonasera day today. I'm excited to introduce my guest. He is a world traveler, a marketing leader, a thought leader, a global business strategist, a speaker, an advisor. Quite literally, never know what country he's in next. Where is he today? It's like the old Where's Waldo books, London, Italy, different continents, different regions. And he has experience working across border lines and understanding the differences that come with marketing and growing a company, a global company. Head of marketing at Surrey Satellite, a satellite manufacturer owned by the Airbus Group, Andrew Greenhalgh. Welcome, sir.
Hi, ciao. Nice to see you, Casey. Thank you for having me on.
Man, welcome. You're a busy guy. You're traveling, and today it's Italy, right?
I'm in Italy, Florence, in Italy, beautiful Florence, yeah. Firenze.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm going to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you work out. Here you go.
Let me get it.
You got it?
I got it. I'm going to.
That is a proper grab of Thor's hammer.
I'm putting it down there. I'm not going to hold it.
Andrew, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Okay, got it. So I work in a high-tech industry. I work in the space satellite industry. We make space satellites. And one of the common myths in this industry is that if you build an amazing product, then customers will just automatically come. And it is a complete myth. It's the myth that we call build it and they will come myth. And it is absolutely nonsense. It's not enough, Casey. It's not enough. And I think it's been around a long time. This myth is engineers, scientists, technical people. They love this kind of thought that it's all about the product. And then in 1989, you will remember the great film Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, Field of Dreams. If you build it, what do they say? What does the voice say in the field?
The voice says, if you build it, he will come.
He will come.
And it's about, I mean, you know better than me. It's about baseball. He's on about building a baseball pitch. You call it a diamond. I think baseball diamond in a cornfield, in one of his cornfields. And he has this thought, this dream, and this voice says, if you build it, he will come. And then he gets these ghosts of these amazing baseball players from the 1919 Chicago White Sox. And it's shoeless Joe Jackson, played by the great Ray Liotta, and a bunch of other players from that team. And it's just like this fantastic film. And that phrase, if you build it, he will come, has been turned into this awful phrase, build it and they will come, to mean any product, as long as you just focus on making a great product, it's enough. And it is not enough. And that is the myth that we got to bust.
Man, this is a fantastic myth. We're going to smash this thing. But where does this come from? Are people just watching too much Field of Dreams before they go to try to market their product?
I think it could be that. And I mean, it's a great myth because, let's be frank, it's a good thing for product specialists like engineers and scientists to think about innovation, to think about their ideas and to focus on their ideas is a great thing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But on its own, it's not enough. Because what about demand? You know, demand does not always follow creation. That's the key. So if your product guys are just building something that they think is cool, there might not be a market for it. So we have to employ the full tactical field of marketing to make sure that they're not building something that is not needed. They're not building something that's a waste of time. So that's what we've got to get into. We've got to get into the fact that, yeah, great products, but it's not enough on its own.
And we should probably pause and talk about the inevitable outcome of what happens when you have a brilliant product and you just think that people will come and they don't. have you seen this happen? What are the nasty things that happen when people try to rely on that?
Well, I mean, there's two or three levels of this. It's first of all, yeah, people need to know about the product or they would not come. If you imagine, if you build the world's best restaurant with the best food, but you put it in the middle of a desert with no roads going to it and no signs and no menu, you're never going to get customers turning up even if how great the food is. So customers need to know that the product's there for them. But even before that, what about designing a product that there is actually a market for? Now, some engineers and scientists might think, I've got a great idea, but you need to go to your marketing people, your research people, to make sure that there is actually a market for it. I mean, it's like building a product without marketing is like designing a bridge that you don't know people need to cross it, right? We need to know that people need to cross it. We need to know that people need this product. So you need to employ your marketing tactics at the start to make sure that there is demand for this product. And all the things that you need to take into account, such as the government and regulatory things that are going to come into place, the political situation, the competition. What are the competitors doing it? What's happening out there? So that's the early stage. Make sure that you design a product by using marketing to help you that you're on the right lines. But then, of course, further down the line, you've got to tell people about it. You've got to transmit the fact that you've got this great product.
Okay, well, and let me just sort of push back a little bit, see what you have to say to this. Well, what if you say, well, you know what? If you have the best restaurant in the world in the middle of the desert under a camo net, and no roads to it, but it's really good, won't word of mouth, won't people just tell other people about it?
Yeah, you're right. That's what a lot of people would say, but the first customer's got to get there, right? If you're not telling people about it at all, you're never going to get any first customers. So think of it like this. Let's put it into engineering terms. A great product without marketing is like a Formula One car without any fuel. It can be powerful, but it's not going anywhere. Okay. So we need to make sure that we're giving the fuel to our product. So we're telling the market about it. We're transmitting. We're always on in terms of delivering this information that we've got this amazing product. And the issue that we have in high-tech engineering companies like mine, 350 space satellite engineers and technicians and scientists in my company, and there's 2 or 3 of us in the marketing team. We're kind of outnumbered, right? So we've got to make sure that we're helping those guys with their storytelling, because engineers and scientists are not always the best at storytelling. And that's our job to do that on their behalf.
I see this all the time, even on podcasts, the idea of storytelling. Sometimes podcasters want to start with a story, but I always have to remind them, we're not all these TED Talk polished speakers. Sometimes we're telling a story at the pub and we're having a beer, and that kind of helps make the story a little bit more easy to listen to. But you're right. Most of us don't just naturally tell a compelling business story. We need some help with it.
Yeah, I think exactly that. And the other thing as well is engineers and scientists can be, maybe not so much in the States, but in the UK, they can be wary of marketing. A lot of people think that if the product is so good, it'll sell itself. They don't like the concept of salesmanship and persuasion. They kind of think good marketing is like cheating, or it's a little bit lowbrow, a little bit dodgy, a little bit dark arts of persuasion. So engineers in particular, you have to get them through that and say, no, we're not going to tell any lies. We're going to tell the story, and we have to do it in an authentic way that speaks to fellow engineers and scientists. Because in space, our customers are also engineers and scientists. So we're not telling any stories. We're not telling anything that's not true. But let us help you create that storyline, and let's get it out there. Let's get the message out there.
Yeah, that is brilliant. I think sometimes what people don't realize, as much as we're logical people, we're also illogical people, right? So, and I come from like that computer science background, so I understand, like, hey, if you write code, the code executes. If you wrote bad code, the bad code executes. But with humans in the sales process, time and time again, they didn't necessarily buy the best product. They bought the product where they liked the person they were dealing with, or they trust the person they're dealing with. So there is that murky middle of the human relationship side that has to be addressed. Otherwise, you may have the best product and you're still going to lose out to someone who had a better connection.
Exactly. And what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that our engineers are bought into the idea of that marketing and salesmanship can help them. They think that marketing and salesmanship is kind of beneath them. It's not serious. It's fluff. But that's like having a superpower. They've got superpower in what they can build and what they can create. But imagine having that superpower, but being too proud to tell anyone about it, right? That's where the marketing guys can come in. We can take what they're doing and tell the world. And I love my engineers. They're doing stuff that I just can't even understand. But what I can do is take what they're doing, and transmit it to the outside world so that everybody knows about it.
So powerful. I think some of the, when people are like, oh, marketing and sales, and salesmanship, and can be so greasy and dirty. Well, yeah, maybe in a used car lot and in the movies. I mean, there are good examples of bad salesmanship and bad marketing, and you get in your inbox every day. It's bad marketing, right? So I think sometimes, it's too easy to see the bad stuff and go, well, that's everything, right? Like, not every salesperson is selling a used car, especially if it's $1 million piece of equipment. You got to up your game, and it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, and we've got to get our engineers on side. So what I'm trying to do is speak to our customers. That's one thing, but do it with our engineers, my own engineers in mind. Because in reality, and you've got to speak their language. So when we're doing the salesmanship and we're doing the marketing, we should be, if we're doing it right, use things that work and resonate with our audience, which is both our own employees, our own colleagues, but also the market. And the way to do that is to speak their language, use data and analytics, involve them in marketing, promote that, put them on the stage. Make it the best things that I put out there are pictures of our satellites with engineers working on the satellites in our clean room. That's what always gets the best traction on the social media channels, because people love to see this amazing hardware and showcase their work, right? I'm not telling, it's not about me, right? I'm the guy that's just telling their story, right? And if you do that, then I think, and help to showcase what they're doing, that they will buy into it. And also the market likes to see it as well, because it's about the people who are creating stuff.
This is powerful. Like, I'm sold on this. So when I think, if let's say you're speaking to a company full of engineers, maybe they have no marketers. Where do they start? Maybe they have one marketer. Where do you start to make this transition to growing a mature marketing group in a company full of engineers?
Well, I think first of all, and this is a key point, I think, it can, as a marketer, right, you can think, or it might be a strange thought to think it would be a good place to be in an engineering company as a marketer. But it's the best place to be, because I'm sure, even though you're in a company where the function of marketing is kind of low in the pecking order, because there's only a few of you, you can make such a difference. Because you're like one or two marketers in this company, you've got an amazing blank canvas upon which to build, and you're telling the story of that business, and that's key. You can make such a difference. And I think, and also, I mean, I'm sure there's more money to be made, or there's certainly bigger marketing budgets in B2C type products, soap powder. But is soap powder an interesting product compared to a space satellite? Not really. No. So I like the fact that my guys are making a space satellite and I'm telling that story. So first of all, I enjoy the fact that there's only a few of us. I don't want this to be dozens of people in Surrey Satellite that do marketing. There doesn't need to be. There needs to be a couple of us. There's me, my colleague Emma, and we have a graphic designer once a week. But what we do is we pull into the engineering teams and bring them into marketing to create content and to speak on behalf of the company at events and exhibitions. When we get TV crews come around wanting to film segments about our satellites, it's not me doing the talking, it's my engineers doing the talking. So it's kind of like you second the engineers into the marketing department for brief periods of time to promote the company on your behalf. And that's the key. Get them involved in doing it.
Got it. I like that. And I think oftentimes in marketing shows and conferences, they talk about sales and marketing collaboration, but what I'm hearing here is the ops, the engineering and marketing collaboration being so vital. And first and foremost, the fact that you're even involving them sounds like that's the first move. It's smart. They know the language, and that's the language of your customer, and they're right in your same office, right? That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And over I've been at Surrey Satellite 12 years. What I've done over that time, because I've got kind of natural sales, I'm a salesman as well as a marketing guy. I've kind of got natural communication skills. And one of the reasons why the engineers traditionally don't like it is because they feel they haven't got natural communication skills. So I've done courses in trying to train them, about how to present, how to speak, and because they're really keen to learn how to do it and to be better at it and to be more natural. And what we do is we just want them to be themselves. We don't want them to be something that they're not, but we want them to be the best version of themselves. And when they're talking about a subject that they're comfortable about, which is the bit of the satellite that they're actually building, they can, and you get them comfortable with the art of communication, they can really tell some great stories. We had a TV crew in just before Christmas, and they sent me the rushes. They sent me the draft earlier today, and I had a look at it. And one of my young engineers, 30-year-old lady called Lily Forward, she's a great communicator as well as a great engineer, and she just absolutely aced it and was talking to these guys in such a compelling way. And the producer was saying to me, we wish we could have given her more time. It was because everything she said was just perfect, and that's because she's been working on her communication skills. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Both giving them permission to be themselves, uh, because you're talking to your peers, so you don't need to be flashy or showy or whatnot. But at the same time, the ability to refine your craft and get better. I love that. I mean, that makes so much sense, and the fact that it worked well on that interview. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she came into the company about 6 or 7 years ago, and she was one of our young graduates. We're taking about between 10 and 16 graduates every year, and she stood out from the start. Her and another lady, they were just on the edge of their seat, taking in all the information, and I knew she was going to be good. And since then, I mean, she wants to talk about on behalf of the company. She's her main thing is engineering, but she loves communicating. And what I need in the company is half a dozen like that who want to be like ambassadors for the business, maybe more, and so that they will speak on behalf of the company and just do a fantastic job. And they're prepared to learn and listen, and then watch themselves back and hear how they did, and ask questions about how could I have done that better next. Yeah, so that basically they're just honing their craft as communicators as well as engineers.
How do you go about? I mean, how do you go about learning the tech, and how much tech do you need to know to effectively market?
So in our sales and marketing team, there's about 16 of us in total. There's only 3 of us in the marketing side of it. The rest are sales guys, and they are all engineers except for me. I did marketing at university, sales and marketing, business development and marketing at university. So I'm the only non-engineer in the company. Most of our sales guys come from within engineering and then gravitate eventually into sales, because they're also, they understand the product, and they're good as technical sales guys. I understand what the satellites do. I understand how to talk about it. I understand the bigger picture. But the minute a customer starts asking me a technical question, I'm out. I'm done. And then I say, but I'm open about that. I don't try and blag it or wing it or try and and we can pull in technical expertise when we need to answer difficult questions. I think it's important you understand what the business does. You understand the track record and the heritage of the company and what we're trying to do. But in reality, knowing every technical thing about a satellite is impossible to do, because there's just so many different areas, so many different functional parts. So my side of it is to tell the story of the company and build the brand. And then we have other technical specialists who we bring in to sell when it requires technical input.
That's kind of, you bring that up, the idea of just it's okay to bring in someone if you're not, that's a great question. Let me bring someone. One time I was interviewing for this job with a science company, and it was about Raman spectroscopy lasers, right? And which I knew a little about from just being briefed on it that day, and they were kind of testing me out to see could I share back things, and and some scientists were evaluating me and my ability to train people, and they said, "Hey, what something about Raman lasering, right?" And I was like, "That's a great question. I don't know, but I can find out," something like that. And they end up hiring me over the some other candidate who tried to just BS their way, like, "Oh, that's this." You're not going to explain lasers to the scientists who invented them, right? So, like, just know what you do know and know what you don't, and then share and collaborate.
Exactly that. I mean, I've kind of made my career on being able to build relationships with people really quickly, right? So what you do is you have a guy like, and I think technical companies do that. They find guys like me who can build relationships with strangers. Traditionally, engineers struggle with that. They struggle with opening up to somebody that they've only just met. Whereas I have no problem with it. And in particular, with most of our customers are international. So I enjoy. I mean, I've lived in the Middle East. I'm in Italy at the moment. I work in the UK. I'm kind of okay on an international stage, and I think, and because I'm curious about different cultures, I'm curious about people. So what I bring to it, and guys like me, and there's a couple of us in the company, you just put us in a meeting room and we can just make it go smoothly. And people, and I've had some of my senior directors before come to me and said, how did you do that? I'm just curious. And yeah, but you ended up talking about football to those guys. I didn't know you were into football. I thought, well, I'm not really into football, but they are. And we just found some common ground. So, so you kind of have a guy like me or a lady like me who can do the relationship stuff. And then you have the engineering, the technical specialist close to hand who can answer the detailed questions. If you've got two of those things, then you've got a real good foundation to build a good relationship with your customer.
Yeah, I love that. What other considerations do you have to think about when you're marketing like a highly technical product?
Well, it's highly technical. There's lots of considerations to do with. I mean, most of our customers are either are basically government or institutions. 50-50. So we're selling to governments. We're selling to the European Space Agency or NASA. So those are type of the customers. So a satellite sale takes on average years from start of conversation to getting it over a contractual line. You know, you're talking 10, 20, $30 million plus minimum for a space satellite. So it's so complicated, Casey. So there's a technical element to it that you've got to get right, because they will have a technical team that's looking over your technical documents. You'll have a technical team that's proposing your technical documents. Then you've got a commercial team who's looking at the legal and framework and the contractual framework. So have they. So you've got to try and bring all these things together, and it just takes months and months and months. So when we do proposals, I mean, we turn over, I don't know, $100 million a year. We're not a huge company. We're part of Airbus Group, who are much bigger, but our part of it turns over 100 million a year. We're probably only signing 3 or 4 big contracts in any one year, because it's just so difficult. You know, you can't have multiple, many customers. You've literally got 3 or 4 big ones that you sign on an annual basis. And it's just so complicated, because it's big money, and there's a lot of legalities involved as well as the technical side of it.
How does marketing best support sales with such a long, like an ultra long sales cycle?
I think for me, the best way we support sales is by building the brand, by making sure the brand of the company, Surrey Satellite, is front and center, so that when anybody is considering a space satellite program of our class of satellites, which is kind of 150 kilos, the size of a domestic washing machine, they will, whenever they're considering one of those satellites, they think, don't forget Surrey Satellite in the UK. They've been doing it for 40 years. They've launched 74 satellites. We should be talking to them. So what we're doing is making sure that we're top of mind, and we're getting them in the funnel at the start. That's what marketing's doing. When they're in the funnel and they're in negotiations, the sales guys and the bid guys take over, because then they know who we are, they know what we're doing, and it kind of becomes incredibly technical. But what more than 3/4 of our effort is spent promoting the brand and making sure that we are always top of mind for any one of our customers. And remember, there's only, of any given time, there's only probably 200 potential customers around the world who are considering a satellite mission over the next few years. We're not marketing to thousands of people or millions of people. We're literally marketing to tens and low hundreds of people, because there's not that many people buying satellites.
Now, what has to change? Because I think a lot of marketing is like spray and pray, fire and forget. What has to change in your mind when you have such a limited amount of potential customers?
You have to make sure that your conversion rate is enough, right? When there's only a few satellite missions being launched every year, and you've got competition, you've got to be in the running. You've got to be in the running for the satellite missions that will work for you, and that's not always easy to do, because you can pick a horse, but that horse in the race doesn't always start the race or finish the race, because what can happen is that a government can decide halfway through a procurement program that it's going to do it next year instead. So because these things are big money, right? These things are big money, and sometimes they don't happen when we think that they're going to happen. So we have to chase multiple strands, multiple opportunities at any given time, knowing that we want to win the right amount of work, and so that we've got enough work in our clean rooms to keep our engineers busy. And it's not like smooth, right? It's lumpy business. It takes 2 years to build a satellite, and the projects never come in at the right moment. When you finish one, you never start another one straight away. It's always overlapping,
Wouldn't that be fantastic if they just all, fell in line, and you just did one and then did another, and they were just, but you're right. It never, we always, it was a joke, when it rains, it pours, right? Hey, great. We just sold 5. Wait, how we just sold a whole bunch. How are we going to do that? So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so it's a nightmare running a business like this. I'm glad I'm not the finance director, because he will have sleepless nights working out how to smooth the flow, the financial flow of the business, and also resourcing. Right? How do you keep?
Yeah.
Our guys, we've got 350 guys and girls. They're specialists in given areas, and some areas are fully loaded and some are not loaded. You can never smooth it out. So resourcing the work is an absolute nightmare. So it's a real challenge, which is why there are barriers to entry. Not many companies succeed in doing this because it is literally so hard to do.
So 200 at any given time. What changes when it, because I'm seeing top of mind and I'm seeing a very select group, right? So you don't have to get 20,000 people to all have you top of mind. You have to get a very selected group. What kind of things work the best to stay top of mind in that limited fashion?
The best channel we use is events, conferences, and exhibitions. So there are specific space events throughout the year. Some of them are in America, some of them are around the world, some of them move around the world every year. Those are the places where we engage with our market. You go to, there's one called the International Astronautical Congress. There's one in Colorado called Small Sats. We go to these particular conferences where we've been going for the last 30 plus years, and we meet those customers there. And that's where we get in front of our market. I mean, we use our social media channels for various things, but our customers don't find us through those. Our customers know where we are already, and when they're interested, it tends to be at events and conferences and exhibitions. So we do maybe 10, 12 a year. That's where we're meeting our customers face to face and finding out where are they in the buying cycle. Is it a few years ahead, or are they really got something they want now? So that's the main place we get in front of them.
Yeah, it's something about that face-to-face interaction, right? When we think about who can I trust with this large purchase, and the handshakes and the conversations, and sometimes the after parties, like who can I build relationships with? It's fascinating. Um, do you end up having like the two-tiered trade show booths, or like what really makes the difference at these events?
I'll tell you what makes a difference is that we're there every year, and we've been doing it for nearly 40 years, because our customers then will know that we are not a fly by night. We're not a flash in the pan. We're not going to be here today and gone tomorrow. They want to partner with somebody who they know has got track record, got heritage, got history, but also longevity, and is going to be around. So seeing us there year after year after year gives our customers, and many of them are conservative customers if they're government institutions, because they have to justify their buying decision, gives them the feeling that, okay, this is a company I can trust. And so we get in touch with somebody, and then years later they'll just start talking to you, but they've seen you for years. So they it's just built up that comfort that we're in this business, we're not going anywhere, and when the time's right, then we'll do something together.
It's fascinating, the different things that people value in different kinds of sales, and the longevity, the fact that you can trust this group. It reminds me of the old, IBM adage, no one ever got fired hiring IBM, right? And it's like they're there and they're there, and they don't have to be flashy, but they're consistent. And when you're thinking about allocating millions of dollars for a project, you don't need that company that's here this year and maybe gone next year because they're just a bunch of yahoos. You want to be able to make sure that it's actually going to happen.
See, it's interesting, our history. When we started, we were the new player in town, and our founder, a guy called Sir Martin Sweeting, he's still our chairman today. He was in the University of Surrey as a professor, and he decided to build small satellites, and because he thought he could build them way cheaper than the existing space companies like Lockheed Martin, like Boeing, like Airbus and Thales, all those sort of like guys, and he could do it at a much cheaper price. So, and that was the way we got in. Whereas after 40 years, we're not the cheapest anymore, Casey, right? There are guys who can set up in their garage who are way cheaper than us, but we don't need to be cheapest. We need to be sort of midway between the space guys who spend $200 million on a program and the new guys. We need to be the guys that are trusted because we've been around a long time, but at a reasonable price point. Because a lot of our customers they can't buy something from somebody who started in business last week, because how can you justify if it goes wrong? Whereas we've launched 74 satellites, and we've got this track record. And so that if something does go wrong, it's not because it's kind of like fate. It's not because we're not experienced.
Right, right. It's something. The things that are in your control are in your control. And so your customers are learning a lot about you, and even just seeing you at these events. Where do you like to learn from? Where do you like to get your inputs from?
Podcasts. I mean, I love listening to podcasts, watching podcasts, and where I learn from is from watching podcasts or listening to marketers from other industries than space. I kind of know how it works in space because I've been in the space industry for 12 years. What I want to learn from is people from outside of space who I could do something in. I could bring in what they're doing into my industry that's not being done at the moment. So I like looking at stuff from outside the industry. I like listening to various marketing podcasts like yours, who get some really interesting people on that I would never meet otherwise. I'd never come across them. So this is where the internet's really cool because from my kitchen here in Florence, right, to where if I'm on the road between my house in Shropshire down to Surrey, I've got 2 hours in the car. I can listen to something and learn something new and see if I can apply that to my own industry.
And I think that's even happening this very moment as we talk, right? A lot of the folks listening, maybe they're in SaaS or they're in some kind of a professional services industry. But to hear the importance of longevity and the importance of the events and the way that you're interacting with engineers, I feel like we're creating that same kind of cross industry learning experience for someone else right now.
Exactly, and that's what people should be looking at this, even if they're not in the space industry, and think that's interesting. How could I apply that to what I do? Right, and that's kind of like keep that curiosity. Right, always have that curiosity about and try and learn something new.
Man, Andrew, my next question is like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know these things? Take me back in time. Little Andrew days when you're growing up. What was it like? Did you know you're going to be helping build satellites and market them to the stars?
No, not quite. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be in sales. My dad was a sales guy, right? He worked in the fencing industry, so he just built fences, and he sold fences. That was his thing, right? And as a young boy, I just wanted to, well, like most boys, you want to be like your dad, right? And I knew I wasn't technical. I mean, I enjoyed building stuff, but I was not obsessed about it. But what I was obsessed about was human interaction. And I really enjoyed building relationships with people. So sales and marketing kind of like drew me in straight away from a very young age. I loved all the jobs I did before I went to university. I kind of enjoyed the sales side of it. And so I focused on business development and marketing at university, came out of there, got a job as a sales guy for a company, and then went to the Middle East when I was 23, spent 12 years working in the Middle East, which was really cool because that opened up my eyes to international markets.
What countries?
I was based in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, but I covered the whole of the Middle East. And
Wow.
that was a fascinating period because you ended up working with people from different cultures, but also going to different cultures, different countries, and that was the best grounding for me in terms of building sort of my career and my experience at working with people with interesting businesses.
Yeah, because you talked about the fact that, whether you're in a meeting with some folks from Asia or the Middle East or whatnot, you're comfortable learning and inquiring about their culture and making friends no matter where someone's from or how they grew up. Because it sounds like because you've experienced different ways.
Yeah, and there's always something to learn from. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm an English guy and I love England. I think it's the best country in the world, right? I love going back there, and I love being there most of the time. But I'm curious, right? And you can learn something interesting from wherever you go, and again bring that back to your own wherever you are and try and do something about it. So, and I think one of the and most of our business now with Surrey Satellite SSTL, 80% of our market is international markets. So we've got to have an international outlook. And one of the things that we do is we have so engineers from our customers will come in and work with us for 2 years on the program because they want to learn how to build satellites. So we've got 16 Filipino engineers at the moment from the Philippine Space Agency working with us in Guildford, building satellites with us. So you've got to have that international outlook so that you can connect with these people. You might not be able to speak their language, but there's always something you can connect on.
I love that. Something about connecting with different cultures, especially different languages, especially if you can't quite like. I've always wanted to learn just enough to be polite, at least, and connect that way. And I think sometimes the people tend to think, well, if I say it wrong, they'll be mad or no, they'll appreciate the attempt. Like, oh yeah, you almost said that way. That's great.
It's, I know what you mean. I mean, I'm terrible at languages, right? So I can't give anybody a lesson in languages. I'm married to an Italian lady and I don't speak Italian, right? It's a disgrace, right? I lived in Dubai for 12 years. I don't speak Arabic, but because I was open, I could say a few phrases,
Yeah.
and they enjoy the fact that you like their culture and are open minded. So one day I'll have to master the Italian language because it's ridiculous that I don't know it. But I think having a curiosity and an openness gets you a long way as well.
Curiosity and the openness. Yeah, yeah, and I guess also the humility to not I'm not an expert in your language and your culture, but I like to learn. I guess that's what ties into the humility. Man, so all these different jumps. So Middle East, and then after Middle East, was it then back to the UK, or how did all that progress?
Yeah, after the Middle East, I went back to the UK. I was in my late 30s, late 30s. And then I got the job at Surrey Satellite. I've been there since 2013. I was just turned 40. And it was, they were interested in a guy that had Middle East experience. And so I cover Middle East and Africa. That was the first thing I did there. I still look after Middle East and Africa, but also now lead on marketing as well, because that's, I've always done marketing, and I did marketing at university. So I kind of wear two hats. And it's and it's what I love about Surrey Satellite. It's just got such a great story, right? Now,
Yeah,
and I'm the guy that's telling the story.
right.
It's a privilege to be in that position.
There is something about having working at a company where there is a story, and I'm sure there are a lot of places that have stories, but maybe they aren't being told or they haven't been discovered yet. So it's great that not only does your company have a story, but it's being told now, right? It's actually being shared.
And I think as well, I'm lucky in that we make a physical product that people can see. They can come and walk around. They can touch. Well, we don't let them touch it, but it's something
Yeah.
that looks really cool, right? I mean, yeah, the SaaS guys, that's a harder thing to sell. It does interesting stuff, but you're not seeing it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I love the fact that we've got a physical product in our clean rooms that looks impressive. When you're spending £10 million on something, right? $20 million, whatever. It's cool that it's there and it's big and it looks shiny and it looks useful. And that's something that's a big selling point for me to be part of the company.
It adds so many extra elements of danger and risk, but also I hear you, to see something in the real world. I mean, I've helped sell a lot of SaaS software, but there's something cool about, like you said, the photos of the clean room, right? You're
Yeah.
all covered up, and yeah, you probably not touching it.
No.
It's like I feel like my kids in the store, like, nope, don't touch this store. Don't touch a single thing because I don't want to buy any of this accidentally. You know.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, they let me in the clean room sometimes when I've got customers, but most of the time they keep guys like me out because there's too much risk. You know what I mean? So they don't want us there.
Oh, what's this do? No, 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 no,
Yeah,
man. Well, a bit of a hypothetical question for you as we shift gears. Are you prepared for this hypothetical?
I'm ready. Go for it.
All right. You see, speaking of hardware and equipment, I may or may not have a time machine here in
Ooh,
New Hampshire.
cool.
And so let's say you're doing they probably don't have any space events in Boston, but they should. But let's say they do one in Boston. You come over and you pop out of the event for a second. We get some beer and we use the time machine, right? It's in the backyard covered in a tarp. So we use this time machine, but it's a particular kind of time machine. And you go back in time and you get to see and meet yourself and have a conversation with yourself. You just graduated with that business studies degree, and you're a couple days later, you get to meet that version of you, right? What do you say to that, Andrew? What do you tell him?
I'm not sure I'd tell him that he's going to work in the space industry because he probably wouldn't believe you, right? He would probably think, what is this guy talking about? How am I going to get into the space industry? So I'm not sure I'd tell him that because it might scare him off. What I give him some general advice. The advice would be, and you probably hear this all the time when you ask this question, get some mentors, right? Learn from people that you respect. Get some older mentors in your life that can tell you how they did it. Learn from people. Learn from as many people as you can. Stay curious. You've heard me say that throughout this podcast. Be curious and always look for things that you can learn. Be open-minded. Be flexible. Curiosity is the key. What else would I tell myself? If we were having a beer, I would probably say, oh, don't drink too much beer, because in my 20s, I reckon I drank too much beer, right? I'd say something on the lines of, beer's okay, but focus on coffee, because coffee is not just a beverage, it's a career survival tool, and it'll be better for you. And when you get to Italy, you're going to enjoy coffee anyway. So I think I'll give myself that sort of advice.
And the coffee in Italy is way
Ooh.
better. Let's be honest. Coffee in Italy is fantastic. I remember the first time I had an espresso in Italy, it was actually right next to the Pantheon, and I didn't need to put anything in it. And I had been this terrible American putting all sorts of substances and sugars and things in my espresso, but I got to Italy and I was able to drink and enjoy it black.
Well, in America, you have this, your coffees. I've seen people with coffees that are like this sort of size, and I'm like, oh my God, what's that? Whereas in Italy, they can be literally tiny. Well, there you go. You got one there.
Little Dunkin' Donuts, yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts, they can be tiny little espressos. And also a cappuccino is a small cup of coffee. It's not a great big milky, frothy thing. So these guys, they know what they're doing when it comes to coffee. So I think I'd have given myself the advice, follow the Italians when it comes to food and drink. They know what they're doing.
They do know what they're doing. And I've definitely heard the phrase, my wife gets upset when she sees people drinking cappuccino. That's for the
Oh,
morning. That is not for the afternoon. That is not an afternoon drink.
I've been in restaurants here where in the evening where they've refused to serve American tourists with cappuccino. When they finish their meal and they say, "Can I have a cappuccino?" The guys are going, "No, no, no, no. You're not. It will ruin the meal. You're not doing it." And they're like, "Oh my God, they can't believe it," but they just refuse to let. They know what's good for your digestion, so they won't let you do it.
And I actually like that. It reminds me of like a challenger sale or someone who actually is advocating for their customer, right? I've actually we were in Italy and we tried to order a bottle of wine. The guy's like, no, 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 no. You want the half bottle. I'm like, okay, man. I'm not, yeah, if you were down selling me on the half bottle, but like, hey, whatever you need to tell me, as opposed to just letting me do it and look like an idiot.
They're kind of good like that. They take food and drink so seriously that they will advise you and guide you as to what works with something. And that what happens here a lot, which doesn't happen normally in the UK, is you will ask your waiter for what do you recommend? What is fresh today? Right, or what is good today? And they won't give you something because they know they need to sell it because it's been in the kitchen for too long.
Hey, that's always the challenge,
So
right?
that might be the challenge. That might be the thing you're scared about. They will give you advice on something that you really should be trying. So because they want you to have an amazing experience because food and
Yeah.
drink is so important for them.
Yeah, and I'm a fan. Hey, any culture where food and drink is that important, sign me up. Send me there. We'll
Cool.
do a live podcast recording. Like
We'll do it.
that is what I'm talking about, and not the rush and the cynical side of, well, they're just trying to get rid of that thing. Well, not there, because they actually want you to enjoy that food.
Yeah, and they want you to come back. And to them, it's an important part of their culture. It's a bigger part of their culture than it is for us in the UK and also you in America. So yeah, it's a big deal. Big deal.
And that's particularly why I like visiting. And I think sometimes people complain, oh, things are so slow and this and that. No, no, enjoy the experience, enjoy the food.
Yeah.
Don't be in a rush. Stop being in a rush all the time. Come
Cool.
on, let's go.
Yeah. That's right.
Until you get to the airport, then you got to rush and catch your flight. But prior to that,
Then you got to get home and you got to do some work. What they're not so good at is doing work. What you guys in the States are amazing at is generating economic value, right? One of the things I love is that being a marketer in the States is probably, it's a better profession to be an American as a marketer. In the UK and probably in Europe, we don't value it as much. Whereas in the States, you've got this economic driving thing behind you, which I think is really cool. The spirit of entrepreneurialism.
yeah, the answer probably is somewhere in between, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of the go, but then also a little bit of the enjoying people. And you see this in like networking events or even at these events we were talking about, where if you're just at, these large space conferences and you're just being all transactional and just trying to scan badges and not create a relationship, that's
Oh,
not it, right? That you're not selling satellites by scanning badges. It's the one-to-one.
it's not, you're exactly right. It's not a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can be too obsessed in maximizing having 10-minute meetings one after the other so that you can go home at night exhausted. No. Better to have one really good meeting that goes somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think in Europe, we're probably better at putting that into sort of some form of perspective rather than just chasing performance and chasing numbers. It's such a long-term sales thing. The way we market and the way we sell takes years. So you've got to be in it for the long haul.
Right.
It's not there's no quick wins.
It reminds me of a business lunch in the US versus a business lunch in France. In the US, why are we even eating? Why are we? Let's keep the plates away. Let's keep the notebooks out. In France, I remember it. Hey, let's have so and so order the wine. He's from Burgundy. It's a totally different world. Man, Andrew, I have to say, like, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been absolutely this has been a great conversation, but also really like a masterclass, learning things, the global, the marketing, the large scale sales of physical objects and how relationships are so important. So I just want to thank you for being on here and teaching us all today.
Casey, you're welcome. And thank you for making me part of your community. I've really enjoyed the experience. Thank you.
Absolutely. For those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, run out of space. I'm in the margins, writing sideways, going back on the other side. So if you learned something like I did, then share this episode with 1 or 2 other people. 9,000 is cool too, but even just one person who needs to hear this, who needs to make sure they're thinking about the long-term marketing, or they need to work with engineers of some sort, shape, and kind, then get this information into their hands so they can better collaborate with their team. With that, Andrew, thank you again, sir.
Thank you. All the best. Take care.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool adventure, an awesome episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.